Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Chin-Quee Chats, the bite-sized podcast where we talk movies, sports, and everything in between. I am your host, Matthew Chin-Quee, and this week, I am by myself just because this is kind of a weird weekend for me because I'm going back home for the weekend, and I usually record around the weekend time, and I don't really want to lug all my equipment, and by all my equipment, I mean my one mic, but I'll also be taking the train back, so I don't want to, risk breaking it or anything. So I'm just by myself, which is probably a good thing due to the subject matter that I'm going to be talking about. And just a warning, I'm probably going to go on a big, long rant. But apologies for last week. There was technical difficulties that I kind of ran into with my guest. No fault of their own, no fault of really my own. It's just, sometimes technology doesn't work. Sometimes it does. Hopefully this week it does, and I actually get to release this episode. But last week there was a problem that couldn't exactly fix, so I just decided to scrap the episode instead of releasing something subpar. Anyways, it's just me this week, and although I had intended to make this a Kingsman review episode, the situation with the weekend and the fact that my schedule is just so busy right now, I wouldn't be able to see Kingsman until at least Friday, and at that point I won't have my mic on me to record. I'm gonna save that till next week. No matter how excited I am for that, no matter the reviews it's getting, I'm still excited for that. So I'll have a review for that next week. Maybe a little bit delayed, maybe with a guest. But this week, I want to talk about just some movie news, namely the Tomb Raider trailer. As you guys know, I've been really anticipating this movie, not just because, and like all seriousness, not just because I have a crush on Alicia Vikander. I honestly love the Tomb Raider game, and I hope this can be good for the video game franchise. Or video game movie genre, and then in the free chat, I'm going to do a review of NBA 2K18, and then just kind of preview just NBA overall. But without any further ado, let's get right into the cinema chat. Okay, cinema chat time. Like I said before, I want to talk about the Tomb Raider trailer, which, as of this recording, I literally just finished watching, and I could not, I can't contain my comments right now, because on one hand, I'll have my reaction for the trailer. On the other hand, you're going to have my reaction to the reaction of this trailer, from the fans of Tomb Raider to the fans of movies. So I liked it. I liked the trailer. I don't think that it was anything spectacular. But then again, from the other marketing that we've seen from this movie so far, from the really, really shitty poster, to that teaser that we got, I wasn't expecting something huge. And despite the talent behind it, Alicia and the director Robert Ruthog, who did The Wave, which is supposedly a brilliant film, it's still a video game movie, and we've had great actors and great directors and great cast and writers, and the whole crew behind video game films such as Warcraft or Assassin's Creed last year, and they didn't pan out at all. So, needless to say, expectations were a little bit tempered going in, and they were met. There were definitely certain moments of the trailer where I was sitting there like, okay, we've seen this before. There are some generic cliches, such as the, whole save the world thing, or the father's gone missing and the daughter's gone out to save her, and then becomes a hero in the process, meets the villain that killed the father, sort of thing. We all saw the trailer. Well, if you didn't, you should watch the trailer so you can kind of get an opinion of it. But then again, on the other hand, a lot of those things are included in the reboot of Tomb Raider, like the video game reboot in 2013, which was received spectacularly. So unlike the 2002, 2001, I'm not 100% sure of when the Angelina Jolie films came out. They are really sticking to the story of of the video game, and they're really drawing a lot of inspiration, and this is a tried and true adaptation. I mean, even from the beginning, you have hints of some of the puzzles that she has to go through, and that was my favorite part. The beginning, the modern aspect of the trailer, where it's not so over the top or CGI with the action. Now, of course, the CGI is probably not finished, just like it is in every trailer, every blockbuster trailer, where people are always complaining about the CGI, but it's almost never finished when they put the trailer together. But I really like the modern, first half of the trailer, where you kind of get some of her motivations as to why she's just a normal girl, and then she's going out to go hunt for this treasure, going out to go hunt for this island because her father left a puzzle for her. And what I really liked about it, what I thought was kind of funny, was that when she's sitting at the table and she's fiddling with that almost Rubik's Cube device thingy, and gets the key out, it reminded me a lot of something you would see in Uncharted. And that is something that the new Tomb Raider video games have been not accused, but kind of drawn parallels to, that it's very similar to the Uncharted games, and that I mean, the concepts are like the video game concepts. They are pretty similar. There's just, kind of gender swap Nathan Drake to Lara Croft, and you have Uncharted / Tomb Raider. But I just thought it was really funny that you could almost see the inspirations of Uncharted in this in this film and in these short little clips that we saw. But I really liked the dynamic that we've seen so far between her and the Asian supporting character. And thank God we have an Asian in this. That is really cool. I really hope that he just doesn't die in the first half. Although we do see that he makes it to the island, and in the video games, there is a crew that is with her throughout the story. Even though she does get separated and kind of goes off in her own way sometimes, there is always the crew that is there with her. So I hope that they kind of stick to that a little bit, because I'd love to see some more diversity, especially in the blockbusters. And then we get to the shipwreck, where it seems pretty on par to what was in the video game, and it's so on par that it almost seems like straight ripped out. And sometimes, I will say, sometimes that is not the best route to go. It's great to draw inspiration and adapt certain parts, but when you go direct, like frame by frame, you get something like Watchmen, which although a lot of people like, and I actually do happen to like, but it's not received 100%. So you do have to take some leeway with movies, because you have to understand that a video game is not a movie, a comic book is not a movie, a book is not a movie, right? You have to adapt it in a certain way. So I hope that the rest of the film isn't going to be as clear cut as it was, ripped straight from the TV screen to the big screen. I hope that they make changes here and there. I like Walton Goggins as the villain so far. Now, granted, when I'm giving my review for all the little pieces in the trailer, that, remember, this is a 2.5-minute trailer. I don't know how the movie's gonna turn out. I'm just purely basing it off of what I've seen so far. But Walton Goggins is one of the most underrated actors, in my opinion, right now. He was great in The Hateful Eight, and he looks menacing right here. Maybe a little bit cliche, but that could again also be just my mind kind of drawing parallels to the video game with a similar villain. So I really hope that he's going to be good in it. And then we get to kind of action shots, and this is where the trailer starts to fall off a little bit for me. There's 2 points here, I think, and the first one is not a fault of the movies, I don't think, and this is more a fault of whoever cut the trailer. And this is kind of indicative of a lot of Hollywood trailers nowadays, because a lot of them have gotten really generic with, you know, they have an action shot and then they cut to a, you know, a text where nobody's actually really going to read it. It's just to cut the action scene so they don't show the entire thing. And then in this particular one, they had like a boom boom instead of a wham sort of thing, the Inception noise that they have. And in this trailer, they just have like two beats to intersperse between the action scenes. And I'm not really the biggest fan of that. I wish it was cut a little bit better, because the editing wasn't, it really didn't draw me in. It made it seem just like any other action film out there, and I want this one to stand out. And not just because of that overarching crush. It's because we don't really have a film like this right now. I mean, you do have the Angelina Jolie films, and I'm going to get to my problems with that later, and the comparing the films to that later. But you don't have, in a modern action, action adventure film with a female lead, you have your Star Wars, which is really pushing their female leads right now, and that's great. And you have, like Wonder Woman, superhero, but something that is more grounded. Granted, Tomb Raider does kind of go off the rails towards the end, at least in the video game, with its mystifying thing, drawing parallels to Indiana Jones, which itself, which Uncharted itself pulls inspiration from. Again, they're all really connected, sort of thing. They're all very similar in a sort of way. But for the most part, Tomb Raider is more grounded than a superhero film. And I think it's important to have a film like this have a female action hero on top of being a video game film, which have definitely had its struggles in the past. So I'm really hoping that this film can be good, but the editing makes it seem very cliche. And then some of the shots, of her rolling and dodging stuff and the excessive slow-mo, it didn't really click with me. Again, CGI does feel a little bit unfinished, but also the green screen is really, really noticeable. And that's something that bothers me a lot in movies, especially in blockbusters, because I think that just bad green screen is pretty much unacceptable in a blockbuster, which, I mean, green screens are used by students, and they're used well. Why can't a big studio seamlessly put it in there? So I'm not exactly sure where the mix-up is there. But here's hoping that the actual film won't look like that, and it is just certain moments, certain action shots, just for a split second, that my mind is kind of lingering on. But overall, I like the trailer. It's not a phenomenal trailer. It's maybe not even a great trailer, but I like it just because of the promise it shows, because there are some really great parts, and because I know how much it looks like that spectacular 2013 video game. So I'm really hoping that the next trailer will be a little bit more universally well received, or even, just skipped right to the film, and I hope the film is going to be well received. Now, about the actual reception to this, I kind of want to talk about some of the people online. And I know it's I really shouldn't be getting pissed off at people online, but I can't help but go through the YouTube comments, go through, Reddit comments, go through Facebook comments, and see people hating on this film. And I see 2 or 3 big points of contention, big points of pushback against this. And the biggest one being that she's not Angelina Jolie and they love those films. Now, excuse me, I didn't really grow up around those films, but since when have the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider films been in the pantheon of video game movies? Since when have they been actually good? Since when have people just loved and revered them? Because prior to this, I've heard nobody talking about it. I've heard everybody saying that there's never been a good video game movie, and nobody's ever brought up those Tomb Raider films. You know what I remember from those clips? I remember Daniel Craig being in it and doing a really shitty English or American accent. I remember nobody talking about Jolie's performances. I remember just those films being ultimately forgettable. So why all of a sudden are we bringing when this is rebooted, why all of a sudden are we holding it in the highest of regards, and why is everybody saying Angelina Jolie will always be my Lara Croft? Like, where is this coming from? Because this didn't exist before. You're just pushing back against an idea just because you want to hate on it, and I don't understand. If I said that to the YouTube comments, I know exactly what the first comment would be, and that would be, she has bigger boobs. And I would just like to say that if you're judging a movie solely on the size of a woman's boobs, then you need to go home, shut your door, turn on Pornhub or whatever porn site you like to use, have some fun, and then come out of your room like a civilized human being, okay? Because that has nothing to do with this, okay? It doesn't. It's been proven in the past that the Lara Croft's body type in the film or in the video games. You got me all flustered now. I'm pissed off. In the video games were a mistake by the developers. So why does it even matter? If you want to go stare at hot girls, there's millions of hot girls on the internet. Okay, there's millions of movies with just random hot girls in it. Go watch Baywatch. Okay, if you want to see big boobs and people and girls running on a beach, go watch Baywatch. Okay, this just because the actress cast doesn't have, fucking gigantic boobs, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, all that matters is she can act, and she's an Academy Award winning actress. So, that brings me to my other point. People are saying that they wish Camilla Luddington would have been passed, and she was the one who did, would have been cast. Did I say passed? Would have been cast, and she was the one who did the motion capture for the 2013 reboot, and she did the voice work and stuff, and that takes an immense amount of skill of acting. I will give her that, and I'm sure she's a great person, but you can't go wrong with casting someone as high caliber as Alicia Vikander. You can't, because she's proven that she's a great actress. She got awards from for her incredible year in 2015 with Ex Machina and Man from U.N.C.L.E. and The Danish Girl and all of that. So why the pushback? Camilla Luddington hasn't really proven herself in a film. Sure, she can do motion capture. Sure, she can do voice work, but that's a whole different ball game than being actually in a blockbuster film. So, I don't understand. You guys got to think about this logically. It just doesn't make any sense. Another point of pushback, of contention, of why people are hating this, is that it's too generic, and the crappy "you have to save the world" cliche, or why is she going on an adventure? This isn't Lara Croft. She should be kind of reluctant into this if we're going by the 2013 reboot. And I've kind of touched on this before, but again, this is basically a direct adaptation of the last two Tomb Raider games. It has the mystical elements, kind of, but it has the save the world aspect, and those were definitely included in the last Tomb Raider games. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It might be a Hollywood cliche, and maybe the film could have done better without it by leaving it out and keeping it a little bit smaller in scope, but they were there, for better or worse. They were in that game, so I don't understand. A lot of the people online are complaining the fact that it looks too much like the video game, or if you're following that story of the saving the world and you realize that it was from the video game, they're saying, oh, it's too similar then. But isn't that what the internet always wants? I don't understand. It's baffling to me. And I know the internet isn't just one person, and I know that there are millions of different opinions out there. But some of the more vocal ones and some of the ones that are being kind of pushed to the top of comment boards and whatnot are those that are saying that it's not good enough, close enough to the games, when this is basically ripped straight from the games. And the story is ripped straight from the games. So, I don't know what you guys want. I don't know what's going to please you guys. It doesn't... Maybe there isn't any pleasing internet fans. And by no means am I saying that this film is going to be perfect, that this film is a guaranteed success just because of all the cast and crew behind it, and because it's following the story. But if you look at certain points of the trailer, and you're a fan of Tomb Raider, you're a fan of the reboots, and you're a fan of just the overall brand, I don't see how you can say that, hey, look, it's completely awful. I don't understand the universal... Oh, I wouldn't say universal. The massive backlash and the massive negativity surrounding this film. I don't see it. But anyways, that's my thoughts. If you didn't like the trailer, I'd love to hear why. And if you say that it's because she doesn't have big boobs, I'm going to slap you. But speaking of getting angry irrationally, I'm going to talk about NBA 2K18 in the free chat segment, and that'll be in just a few. I'll be right back. And we're back for the free chat segment, and I'm going to try something that I haven't done before, and that's review a video game. And this segment may turn out to be awful, because I just want to preface this by saying I don't have PlayStation Plus, or I haven't experienced any of the actual online gameplay for this particular game. Okay, I don't know why I'm keeping a secret. You guys heard me talk about it in the cinema chat segment about 2K18. I don't have any of the online experience because I'm too cheap to pay for, I don't even know how much it is a month, like $80, or it's not a month, a year, like $80 a year for something that I know I'm not going to be that great at. And just to get my ass handed to me, I can do that against the CPU within the comforts of my own home and without using the internet and without paying a ridiculous amount of money a year. So I just want to preface that this review is going to be not on the online stuff, but I have bought the NBA 2K series for a couple years now. This is my first time buying it 2 years in a row, but I have owned several other copies before, and as you guys know, I'm a huge basketball fan, and I'm a huge NBA fan. And the reason why I hadn't bought them before was, one, I didn't really have a console for it, and two, sports games really piss me off. And even to this day, they still piss me off, because there are certain things, and when you play basketball, you learn to see the court, and you want to do certain things, and when you're playing your character on NBA 2K, and they're not responding the way you know that you would in real life, and you know that you want the character to do, and they can't do it, it is so frustrating. For example, I'm guarding a player and I want to steal because he's exposed the ball wide open, and then all of a sudden I'm getting called for a foul, and I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. The ball's exposed. You just go and steal it. Like, stuff like that. And then I come back to reality and snap back to reality, and like, okay, hey, this is just a simulation game. It's never going to be exactly like real life. But there are a few features that I'd just like to talk about in NBA 2K18 that are kind of new additions. And starting from the top, the all-time teams that they added in. I think this is a really, really cool feature. Now, for those who didn't know, within NBA 2K18, you can just go to like a play now mode where you can just go play with any team you want from the NBA, any of their current rosters. And They've always had, classic teams, some teams that have been really good. The 95, 96 Bulls, um, the 2001 76ers with AI, that sort of thing. Or the Showtime Lakers, the Celtics, who were led by Bill Russell, and I don't really think they have a name. But anyways, you have those classic teams, but this year they added in something really cool, and this was the all-time team. So this is the best players of all time from a certain franchise. So with the Lakers, for example, you could have Shaq, Kobe, Magic, Kareem, and I don't know, Pau Gasol all playing at the same. Okay, that doesn't make any sense because that's too much. That's too much on the center position. But anyways, you get the idea. You have all the best players on that roster. So obviously you're gonna have franchises that are ridiculous, like the Warriors, the Lakers, the Celtics. They all have incredibly stacked teams. And you have younger franchises like my Raptors that I recognize every player on there, and I still think there are some omissions from it, and the lists aren't perfect. But it's kind of an almost what if that a lot of NBA fans do and say, what if we had this player in their prime on this year's team? How good would they be? And I think that it's just a really, really cool concept to see these players, to see, for the Raptors example, Lowry throw up an alley-oop to Vince Carter, or Carter put up a shot and Bosch grabbed the rebounds, kicks it out to T-Mac, passes it to Rosen, sort of thing, right? You have, you have some of my favorite players from certain franchises who never really got to play with each other, and you finally get to see them play with each other, and then you can face them off against the best of the best again on the other teams. It's almost like an all-star for that franchise, and I think that's really, really cool. So that's one addition that I'm really liking from 2K18. And then there's the reason that I buy these games. It's the My Career mode, and that's the reason that a lot of people buy it, because they want to see themselves inserted into the game. They want to see themselves kind of having an NBA career, something that most people definitely can't do just because we're not 6'9" freaks of nature. It's just a fact. I'm not growing that big, and so yeah, it's cool to kind of see yourself in that situation. So you build a character, and this year it's they changed the storyline. You're not going through college, you're going through this kind of street ball thing. And 2K's stories have always been really cheesy. They always give them weird names. Like last year was Prez, like the president of basketball, and this year it's DJ because he was your character was literally a DJ before. So yeah, the storyline, cheesy as always. You have a really, really annoying sidekick who, I think her name's like Be Fresh. And she is actually based on a YouTuber named Lil Tasty, who's like she's like a parody, sort of thing, like a comedy performance, but it's just a short Asian lady who acts like she's, from the hood, and like she worships at the altar of Kobe. And she's kind of an awful character. I've avoided most of the cutscenes, or just kind of not paid attention to any of the cutscenes that she's in. There's actually a scene where like you can say if you want her here, and I was like, nope, no thanks. You can leave now. I've had quite enough of your presence. So yeah, there's that. But the biggest addition to this, in my opinion, this year was the addition of my neighborhood within the career, 2K My Career. So this year, instead of just having a loading screen where you can go to practice, or you can go to the games, and for people wondering, well, why would you go to practice? It actually makes your player better. You can increase their overall skill level by going to practices and doing these practices. But last year was really clunky because whenever you wanted to go to practice, you'd have to sit through long loading screens. And this year, you just go through one long loading screen and you load up My Neighborhood, which is an almost open world area where you can go shop for shoes, get a haircut, get tattoos for your character, and you can also go straight into practices without these big loading screens. and the game feels a lot less clunky than it did before. The game is also a little bit more difficult this year in terms of leveling up, because you have this My Neighborhood. You can see other characters and their skill levels, their overalls. Now, the overalls you can get to is 99, I believe. Right now, I'm at like a 65. You start at 60. So, woo, I'm getting there. But it's before you can just purchase the in-game currency to level up your character. And sure, you can still do that, but there is a cap you reach with that. And this year, you have to actually work into the game, and it's harder to get to that 99 overall. And that coveted 99 overall is really useful. Just not even just for against computers. If you have online, you can go to My Park, I believe is what it's called, and you can go play against other players in the world. And my brother actually knows somebody who does that competitively and makes money off of it. So this is important to some people leveling up to 99 overall. But it is a lot harder this year, and on launch day, you're not having people who are immediately level or overall 99. They're immediately not schooling everybody. So I think that is pretty cool. And even the people who are overall 85 just because they bought, that doesn't really necessarily translate into skill. I'm seeing instances where people are overall 65s and they're beating overall 85s just because they are actually more skilled than the people who just bought their way into skill, sort of thing, right? But yeah, that's basically been my experience with 2K so far. Could talk about the soundtrack a little bit. It has some cool songs. It's not as kind of cheesy as it was last year. I'm really liking that they have the Hamilton mixtape on there, but I'm not exactly sure how that'll appeal to most NBA fans. It's kind of a weird crossover for musicals and NBA, but I enjoyed it. I like the mix in there. But yeah. So that was my first attempt at reviewing a video game, and I didn't even review all the facets of it, so let me know if that went well. But that just about concludes the time I have for this episode. As always, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for listening all the way through. Make sure to check out every other show on the Geek Pulse Radio Network. This past Tuesday, the Geek Pulse Radio News was a great episode. They were talking about iPhones, and it was actually the most serious I've ever seen those three get, which is really cool. I knew Vital Vibrations just dropped, and I really, really love that show. I cannot recommend it enough. We just have so many new great shows on the network, so check them out on the iTunes, on SoundCloud, wherever you want to listen to your podcast. We're there. You guys can follow me on Twitter at CQ_chats. And then for my personal one, Chin-Quee96, where I rant. I've recently just ranted about people not putting their shit back at the gym when they're done. That really annoys me. But that's a whole other rant and for a whole other time. Thank you for listening, and I will chat with you guys next week.
As a good friend once said, manners maketh man.
Hey, shut the fuck up. Eggsy, I'm gonna shove your manners up your fuck.